do this now so I don't forget. And should we turn on captions? Do you think it's helpful to have captions on in?
I don't know. I've never noticed.
I'm gonna turn them on because I feel like I've been asked before to turn them on. And acknowledgement. So we have to be done with this one by 10:45, which I don't think is going to be a problem because it's not that many people.
And the other one is scheduled to start at 11, or does it started?
Yeah, I think it's 11. No, 11 to 12.
11 to 12. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just looking for my math and acknowledgement. A lot of helicopters outside my house. Weird.
We've had 4 people join, including Julie.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. What did you just say?
I got Julian.
Yeah, good. Hey, Julie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you. How was your vacation?
it was good, but I hurt my ankle.
Oh no.
All the entire town is cobblestone.
I don't know where you were. Where were you?
Oh, I was in the super tiny little town called Ejutla,
Oh,
like 3 hours south of Guadalajara.
oh, okay.
But the whole town is
Oh, how
cobblestone.
pretty.
So
Yeah, that's so pretty.
yeah, but I messed up my ankle really nicely.
Oh gosh. Is that place like near where your family is?
Yeah, that's my mom's town.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, she hadn't been back for 25 years.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was a very special trip.
Yeah, it was. It
Mhm.
was, mostly for her. She wanted to go. So, and her birthday is at the end of the month, so it was like, you know,
It was
a
her
little birthday gift.
birthday, Mother's Day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk through this real quick. So we're gonna do this a little differently.
Okay.
Normally I host and follows a chat and you kind of help us out with all of that. This time Anne is gonna host. I'm just gonna do a really quick intro at the beginning and then I'll transfer it to Anne. Anne's gonna host. She's gonna move the slides forward as she's talking. You and I will keep track of the chat. It's not that many people, so I don't know
Okay.
how many. I may just tell them, what do you think, Anne? Should we just ask people to unmute?
Yeah, there's only 5 right now.
Okay. So then we don't have to keep track of the chat then.
Okay.
But Anne, you're logging off for the next one, right? You're only here for this one, not the year 2.
Yes, if
Okay.
possible.
Okay. So then for the year 2, Julie,
Yeah.
uh, it'll be you and I hosting. You'll
Okay.
track, you'll track the chat. If in case there's anything, I may do the same thing, just tell them to unmute.
Okay.
But it's helpful to have at least one other person just to keep track of what's going on in case anything happens or.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So I think we're good to go. I'm gonna do the land acknowledgement and then hand it off to Anne. And then Anne can get started.
Okay, can we let them in?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, thank you for joining us. My name is Rosalind Escobar. I'm the Grants Programs Manager here for the LA County Department of Arts and Culture. I'm going to get us started with a land acknowledgement and then we will begin our workshop. The County of Los Angeles recognizes that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano, Quiche, and Chumash peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants, past, present, and emerging as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We acknowledge that settler colonization resulted in land seizure, disease, subjugation, slavery, relocation, broken promises, genocide, and multi-generational trauma. This acknowledgement demonstrates our responsibility and commitment to truth, healing, and reconciliation, and to elevating the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of Los Angeles County. We're grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. We're dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native peoples and local tribal governments, including, in no particular order, the Fernandinho Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Tongva Indians of California Tribal Council, Gabrielino Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians Quiche Nation, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, San Fernando Band of Mission Indians. To learn more about the First Peoples of Los Angeles County, please visit the Los Angeles City County Native American Indian Commission. Their website is at lanaic.lacounty.gov. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our staff and my trusted colleague, Anne Jensen. She will be hosting the workshop today.
Okay, hi, everybody. Let me just make sure I've got everything where I can see it. Okay, so hi, I'm Anne Jensen. I'm the grant specialist here and working with Roz in the OGP grant division. And just to give you an overview of what we'll be doing today, we'll have an overview of the OGP grant cycle and requirements in general, just as a review. We'll discuss some new changes to the grant reporting forms. I don't know if they're new this year, but they're new probably since the last time we've done a year one report. We're going to review some of the contract terms and the grant project budget, go through some of the post-report audits, and then any questions. And can you all hear me? I'm concerned about my internet. I think we're okay. Okay. So before we begin, and Roz, can you hear me for sure?
I can hear you, Ann.
Perfect.
Maybe if anyone's having trouble hearing, just feel free to chat us. Also, just for housekeeping to say, if it's such a small group today that if there are questions, feel free to go off mute. That's totally fine.
All right, so before we begin, you'll just visit the Manage Your Grant section of our website and download and review these materials, which are the reporting requirements, and a copy of Exhibit B for the OGP terms and instructions. And there's also a copy of the online year one report. Oh, actually, that's the link. Yeah, sorry. The link there is for the grant management system. So you can, that's just the link you would use to log in to the portal. Okay. So just to all right, so the general overview of the contract, the OGP contract and timeline. So the OGP provides 2-year grants for projects, and these grants are meant to provide support for organizational capacity and to boost the organization in a way that's helpful to the overall mission. So in this case, your project scope can be overarching. And in terms of how you're ending this first year, we're aware that there are still challenges being faced throughout the arts sector. And so the projects may be different than what you originally projected. So just to be aware that, yeah, we're aware that they're and have allowed for more flexibility than probably in the past. So the contract year goes from July 1st. It would have started last year, so that's July 1st of 2023, and it will end on June 30th. And the grant, it's for your entire grant cycle will end June 30th of 2025. So again, July 1st to June 30th. Okay. And sorry about that. Some new changes for the OGP year one reports. Okay, so several changes that have been made for the reporting forms. And this basically just includes streamlining some of the questions and removal of the expense budgets and supplemental material requirements. For example, the images and proof of recognition, things like that. So these changes, we made them as a result of the need to provide more flexibility for grantees to be able to provide updates about modifications to grant-funded projects. And this is all due to the ramifications of COVID and its effect on just our sector. The list of the main changes are on the screen. And you may also see a copy of the updated report forms by clicking on the link there. And one of the biggest changes you've already noted, which was that we used to have you submit your invoices at the end of the grant year. And we've now, they were included as part of your contracting packet. So that should all, everyone should have automatically submitted their invoice and should have received their year one payment already just at the beginning of the grant year. Okay, so getting started. So the things you'll need, your checklist for the reporting. Um, so this list is an outline of all the materials you need to locate and prepare beginning your report and your beginning your report. So you'll need a copy of your OGP contract and your application budget. So it will be helpful to refer back to these documents when you're filling out the reporting forms. You'll need to look at the project descriptions, the award amounts, the address on your contract, and the submitted project budget to ensure that you've complied with all of your contract terms. And the second thing is a copy of your thank you letter sent to your board supervisor. So all grantees are required to submit a thank you letter to the board supervisor for their district. So locate a copy of that letter that you sent earlier in the year, or you can send one now if you haven't sent it previously. Scan that copy and submit it with your report. And just also remember, because there have been changes with the supervisor, the districts within the last, I believe they were last year, just be sure to double check and make sure that your district hasn't changed. There should be a link right there for you to verify and just by plugging in your address. Okay.
Can I ask a question, a quick question?
Yes.
So about the letter to the supervisor, our letter came from one supervisor, but I think maybe the district changed. So should we just send a letter to both?
Yes, if your district has changed, is that correct, Ross? They should just go ahead and send one.
Yeah, just to be safe. And you want to always have ensure that whoever is your board supervisor going forward is aware of what you all are doing.
Okay, thank you.
So reporting and invoicing. So all grantees must report on the progress and the outcomes of the grant awarded project. So the year one report specifically, which is the one you're filling out, it focuses on the process of implementing and measuring your OGP project. So you're reporting on what you expect from the funded OGP project, how you define success, how you'll keep track of your progress continuing forward. You'll also report on the kinds of activities that you've completed so far. So you should communicate how you're reflecting on the process, how you're reflecting on the progress of your OGP project. And so it's just, an interim update. Let us know how it's going. In the project challenges section, you'll want to provide any information about any challenges faced. And this could be, for example, any shifting performance schedules, any partnerships that have changed, any staffing changes that are affecting your timeline or your deliverables. And again, this is a place where you can report any challenges that have forced you to adapt the project as well. So as long as the scope of your project is the same, you don't need to submit an amendment, but this is where you could report on things that still, you've altered what you originally submitted, but it still falls within the overall scope. So your year two report, which will be at the end of next year, that one will focus on the overall outcome of your 2-year OGP project. So you'll report on the outcomes of the project, the impact of the project on your organization and any challenges, and you should communicate your overall reflections about the OGP project and address any significant lessons learned for future. So again, that's just a heads up of what you'll be expected to report on next year. Okay. So just looking at your contract. So just if you so we recommend having a copy of your contract. If you can't find it, just email us and we've got them on file. We can send a copy. The key things you're looking for here are on the first page of your contract. It provides important details about your contract that you'll need in the reporting process. So your legal name, your DUNS and vendor ID number. Section 2 also includes the purpose and scope of your grants. So that would be your project description describing the services and activities you agreed to provide through the completion of your contract. And in 2020, due to the changes in programming that organizations were facing, we made the scope of everyone's contract the same, which is just general operating support, which means that then again, you have the flexibility to modify your individual project or your original project if needed. So if you think you're going to need to completely change the way that your funds will be used, just let us know and we can discuss the process. The agreement term, and that is listed there as well. It provides the expiration date, the maximum grant request amount, or the maximum, the total amount of that you should have received. And just a few reminders. A reminder that the grant budget table was submitted as part of your grant management system, it was submitted in the grant management system as part of your application. So let us know if you need a copy. We can tell you how to download it there, but so your budget should have been submitted there. And in the event that your address has changed, you'll also need to submit any updates to vendor services to ensure that they'll be able to correctly process your year 2 invoice. And so the address on your invoice needs to match the address that vendor services has on file. So just be sure to verify that. If there are any changes, we can direct you how to contact vendor services.
I see Jill's hand up, but I don't know if that's from before. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. For the cash match, so as part of your reporting, grantees must demonstrate and report matching dollars that ensure that the grant funding did not exceed 50% of the cost of the supported project for that year. So with your matching funds, they must at least equal your grant award amount each year, but they can and most of the time will exceed your grant award. So just and Roz, do you normally recommend that they report just the matching funds, or do you recommend that they report the exceeding amounts as well?
You mean in the narrative or in the budget table?
But in the budget table, but
we've removed the budget table.
The budget table. Okay, that's right. Okay, that's
yeah. So the narrative should explain kind of how the funding was spent.
Okay. All right, and then the matching expenses task of your final year, since we've eliminated it at this point, we don't need the interim update, but at the matching expenses task of your final year 2 reporting will have you detail all of the information. So just as a heads up, saving that and saving all your records. Okay. All right, so all of the reporting and the invoice forms are located in the grant management system, which is SurveyMonkey Apply. So let's just take a look at the system now. It should be familiar to all of you from the application process, but just as a review. So all grantees already have an account in the system, and it's linked to the person who is managing the grant on behalf of the organization. So if you've had a staff transition and you're coming into the system for the first time and need to be connected to your organization's existing account, please let us know by email. You can email us at the grants@arts.lacounty.gov email. We can help you change the account ownership and link you to your organization's current account. We don't want you should not start a new account. Even if you've lost your password, don't start a new account. If you've forgotten the password, there's an option to click forgot my password and you can reset it. Or if you've lost the username, just contact us and we'll help you send you the email, the username that is associated with the account, and then you can reset from there. Right. So once you've logged on, Once you're in the dashboard, you'll see both of the required forms that you need to fill out for your grant report at the top of the list under your task. You can see they're highlighted there with red arrows. That would be the year one report narrative questions, and then the supplemental materials, which is the letter to the supervisor. The report forms, they're required, but you'll also see 2 optional forms on the list as well. And these don't need to be filled out to complete the report requirements. The optional ones are the change of information. So if you have changed any of your contacts, your address, you have the option to fill that out now, but you're not required to fill it out in order to submit your report. The same with the amendment request form, but again, that's talked to us before if you think you need to do an amendment. Okay, and then for the year one narrative questions. So this is just an overview. Well, actually, this is just a list of the questions that are included in the report. So again, let's see these narrative questions that you'll need to respond to. Note that these questions have been reduced to streamline the process. So there were more, now there are fewer. Please do your best to explain the progress you've made thus far, the modifications you've had to make in terms of temporarily changing schedules, restaffing, shuffling programming. Focus your responses to the most meaningful elements and information, and note character limits. Just note those in advance so you don't get frustrated if you go over the limit. Through your responses, we hope to gain a deeper understanding of the project scope, the implementation and progress. And we also want to know what modifications you've had to make. What do we really want to learn from your responses? We really would like to learn how best to be able to support our grantees. So we review these responses and we share data and trends with our department leadership, including our research and evaluation teams. And we use this data to highlight organizational program successes, any challenges and general shifts in the nonprofit arts sector in order to be able to be a better partner to you and a better supporter of your work. Okay, so here's your supplemental materials checklist. Again, so there you'll see your letter to the supervisor. And we've temporarily removed the other requirements, which you'll see there, which were your artistic documentation and your proof of recognition. With the thank you letter to the Board of Supervisors, you're required to send a thank you letter to the board supervisor of your district. Review Exhibit B for step-by-step instructions for creating and sending the letter if you need them. Make sure to email and to keep a copy of the email letter and then upload that scanned copy in your supplemental material. Also remember to check and see if your district is changed. Okay. And then once all of the required reporting tasks are complete, just review everything and make sure it looks correct. Download everything for your future reference, and then just click submit, which is circled right there. So again, and you'll see the change of information and the amendment request form are there, but since they're optional, they do not need to have the green check mark by them. So once all the required tasks are complete, just submit. All right, so the auditing and post report review. So we'll be conducting audits on late and incomplete OGP reports. We do not require proof of expenses with reports. However, we will conduct audits of 10% of the reports submitted, and those are conducted on reports that are submitted past the deadline or those that are incomplete at time of submission. So make sure you're keeping receipts, records, and the documents that pertain to your expenditures for your for your grant. This list provides you with an outline of all supporting materials that you'll need to prepare in case you're selected for a random audit and you request proof of expenses. So there's the list there for your reference, but that includes reports generated from in-house accounting systems such as QuickBooks or Quicken, copies of canceled checks showing proof of payment, bank statements, credit card statements showing proof of payments, cash register receipts, signed and dated contracts of letters of agreement with due these dates and other services. Okay, that's it. We've covered it. Any questions? So again, if you have any questions moving forward, once you've started the process of working through reports, please feel free to reach out. It's the grants@ards.lacounty.gov, and we will respond. You can also phone, and then if you want to check out the sample report forms, you can do that at this link. Oh, so again, yeah, if any questions, just feel free to unmute.
Yeah, this is Flori. I have a question about the Discover LA website. There's a discrepancy between the narrative reporting questions and the contract. The contract says, I don't remember if it uses the word suggest or encourage you to use the website. We did not. We had some troubles listing things. The report says you are required to use the website. Obviously, I mean, it's a simple explanation that we didn't use it because we had difficulty. We will certainly make sure we list everything in LA County in year 2 of our grant. This is our first grant from the county, so thank you for that. But I'm just, confused by the discrepancy between the contract and the reporting question.
And Roz, what is the status of Discover LA at the moment?
And that's why there's confusion. There was a requirement, and then that changed probably about a year ago, around the time that we were starting to find that there were more and more issues with Discover LA. They don't have a staff. Very it's tight. So it's hard for them to kind of keep up with sometimes with the troubleshooting, which is why we then decided to, rather than make it required, just encourage it. So we do really appreciate when folks are doing that. But yeah, it's no longer a requirement. So I'll go into the form and make sure it doesn't say required. So it's not.
Yeah, it does use the word require, and I suddenly went, because of course we want to, do everything that you ask of us, and we want to encourage people to come to our events and to support, tourism and events in general in Los Angeles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Thanks, Roz.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
All right. I see something in the chat. The organization submitted it, but never heard back. We do have, okay. So somebody named TR said they never heard back, but they saved the submission documentation. That's great. You can say that you tried at least in the form. We don't need to see the documentation, but thank you for at least trying.
And for letting us know that it's still problematic.
Yeah. All right. Doesn't seem like there's other questions coming in. I posted the link to the web page where we have this PowerPoint slideshow with the links there. So hopefully that's helpful for you all. And then if you have any questions after this, feel free to email us or call us. We're around, and We know that sometimes people need extensions, so just, feel free to connect with us if you think that might be necessary. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Great to see you all.
Thank you very much. Thanks. This was helpful.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jen. So we will be recording this workshop, and we'll post it on this webpage, the link here for reporting requirements. Exhibit B, which is like one of the attachments that was with your contract, that has the list of everything you need to submit as part of your year 2 report. And then, of course, the link to the online grant management system that we use, which is called SM Apply or SurveyMonkey Apply. That link is here too. So just making sure you have all of this on one page before we get started. So really briefly, the overview of this process, right? We have 2-year grants. These grants began in July of 2022 and will be ending June 30 of 2024. That's the whole grant life cycle. So you already submitted a year 1 report last year around this time, and now you're submitting your final report to basically not talk through it, but to explain to us kind of what happened during these last 2 years, how you spent out that money, what progress you've made, what challenges you've encountered, everything like that. So hopefully by this point, you've noticed that we've really tried to have a lot of flexibility, especially over these last years of trying to recover from the pandemic, trying to have a lot of flexibility. So this money has been used in a lot of different ways, and we continue to be flexible with that. And so, really, we're just looking to see like where you're at now and what you're seeing in terms of like the progress of your project. So you'll be kind of giving us that overview of July 1, 22 to June 30, 24, what's happened. And there have been some changes as a result of the pandemic to the way that we ask for some of these requirements. So this table here is showing you some of the changes. So first being the way that we process invoices. We in prior years used to require that the grantees submit an invoice with their reports. And we've now changed that. We have now put the invoices into the year 1 invoice into the contract package, so that it's part of the contract package and you get your first year payment right away. And then the year 2 invoice was processed at the beginning of the cycle last August. So no longer processing invoices at the end of the cycle, we're doing it at the beginning. We've also reduced our narrative questions. So in the report, we used to have a lot more questions. We've reduced them down to 10. And if there have been modifications to the way you use the funding, you can explain that in the report form itself. There's a new question about cultural equity and inclusion activities in progress that you may not have seen before, so you'll see that. And then we do request a zip code list of all programming locations. And then we now have no expense budget. Oh, sorry. The expense budget is still in the year 2 report. We no longer ask for it in the year 1 report. So we have a final budget. It is part of this process. So you can kind of just explain any changes that you've made in the narrative, as well as in the expense budget as needed. We do have a sample of the report form. Again, this is all on our website in case you want to see these questions before you go into the grant system. So feel free to use this link here to do that. We create a checklist every year to make sure everybody has everything they need before going into the grant system. Here's the checklist. So these are kind of the main documents you want to have ready to go. So number one, have your contract, your original contract with the budget that you filled out at the beginning in fall of 22. Hopefully you still have that. That'll be helpful for you just to know more or less how you had planned to spend the money. If you haven't submitted a letter to your board of supervisors in year one, then you're required to do it in year two. You have to do it at some point during the 2-year cycle. So if you haven't done that yet, make sure you have a copy of the letter to submit for year two. And then we'll need a proof of recognition. So like a screenshot or some type of image that shows that you've recognized the County Department of Arts and Culture's funding as part of your programming. And then some artistic documentation, basically it's minimum 1, but we encourage at least 2 high quality images of activities that happen during these 2 years that you're reporting on. And we really make the note to try not to reuse anything that you've sent us in the past. Please make sure it's current and it is regarding the, the 2 years that you've been receiving this pot of funding. And then the way that we use these images, they really help us to kind of tell the story of what our department is supporting. So we really appreciate when folks are sending us any kind of images. We sometimes may use them in some of our communications to the Board of Supervisors, on some of our publications, some of our reports. So we really appreciate when you are able to kind of send images that are lively, that show the high quality of work that's happening and showcasing your organization in the best light. The zip code list, maybe you've submitted this in the past. If you haven't before, it's a zip code list of everywhere where you've done programming, not every attendee. So just making sure that that's clear, because sometimes we get a list of a lot of different zip codes, and we don't want people to get confused. It's not a list of attendees, it's a list of programming locations. So reporting process, we have already received your invoice most likely, and you submitted that in August. We've processed those payments, probably received payment during the last part of the year, last year in 2023. So now we're at reporting phase. We're at the end of the cycle. The deadline for all of this is June 3rd. So hopefully everybody has that kind of marked on their calendar. And again, make sure you're looking at Exhibit B just to see everything kind of listed out in that document. The differences between the year one and the year two reports. The year one, we're focused on the process of implementation and how you're measuring your OGP project. You report on what you expect from the funded OGP project, how you define success, how you'll keep track of your progress. For year two, it's slightly different. We're talking about, or want to hear about, the overall outcome of the 2-year project, wanting to see what kind of impact you saw, and hopefully communicating any overall reflections about the grant cycle, anything that you faced that you had to address, any significant lessons that have been learned during this time. So to get started, again, you may want to make sure you have your contract from 2022 when you first received the award. So this is an image that shows you what that contract looks like, how we kind of state what the project was, the scope, the award amount. It shows your vendor information and vendor number there. One of the major things is that you're going to need the vendor number and address to match so whatever's in your documentation should match what's with vendor services. So hopefully you've kind of made those updates if there are any. Under purpose and scope of grant, you'll see that everyone's contract says general operating support. We started doing this during the pandemic to make it easier for folks to, if there is a pivot that needs to happen during the grant cycle, that you're not having to create an amendment every time to your contract. So this makes it flexible. And so you'll see it says general operating support, but you're reporting out on like basically what you explained in your application you would be doing with the funding. The expiration date is there under agreement term. The award amount, again, reminder, we only pay out half of the award each year. So that's the full 2-year award, and you've received hopefully both payments by now. So not sure if everybody remembers, but when you submitted your contract in 2022, we asked you to submit an adjusted budget because no one received the amount of funding they actually requested. You most likely had to scale down your project. And so in order for us to kind of keep track of like who's kind of still going to go about doing the same project, who's adjusting their project, we asked you to submit a new grant budget. So hopefully you have that. You have access to this. You've saved it from the grant management system. Let us know if you need help locating that. That will be helpful just for reference as you're putting your numbers together for this final budget. Reminder that the expectation is that there is a cash match. For every dollar of the grant, you've spent another dollar, maybe more, on this project. So that's one of the expectations. We want to make sure that grantees are demonstrating that the county funding did not exceed 50% of the cost of the project for that fiscal year each year. So to begin the reporting process, after you've got all these documents together and you've looked at your contract and you know more or less what you're going to be kind of explaining in that reporting form, you can start to log into our grant management system. So it's the URL for that system is www.apply-lacdac.smapply.io. I would recommend using a Word document, having your responses in a Word document, and then cutting and pasting them, mostly because there's very strict word counts and we don't want you to get frustrated as you're typing into the grant system. We don't want you to run out of space. So start in a Word doc, cut and paste that into the grant system. Try to submit it as early as you can so that you're not running into any weird glitches. The system will automatically close the reporting forms by the deadline. So just be aware, you want to make sure you're getting that in there before that happens. If for any reason you're unique, like maybe you're a new staff person that's working on this grant, or you just can't locate your password, just let us know. We can support you in either creating a new account and like linking all the documents to the new account, or if you're just resetting a password, you can just click the forgot your password button and then the system should allow you to reset it. Any kind of troubleshooting though, feel free to get in contact with us. So once you've logged in, you're going to see a dashboard. So this is what you're seeing here on the screen, what the dashboard looks like. So this is the dashboard for the round called Manager Grant Round 2. All required forms are in here. So you're going to see there are 5, 3 of which are required, 2 are optional. So ignore the optional ones if you don't need a project amendment request and you don't need a change of information form. Just ignore those forms and focus on the ones that are marked as being due by June 2024. So that's the final report narrative questions, the final report matching expenses, and the supplemental materials forms. We've crossed out the invoice because again, we've paid those invoices out already. We did that in the earlier part of the grant year. But if you have any questions about that payment, again, email us and we can do some research. So we'll start with the matching expenses table. So again, as we talked about, the purpose of this grant expense table is there's 2 things. Number one is we want to see kind of more or less how the funding was used. And then the second thing is making sure we're documenting that LA County did not provide more than 50% of the cost of the project. So that's where you're showing us the way that the funding was used, the funding from OGP, and then the way the year 2 matching funding was used, because that's the dollar for dollar match. So you're just kind of showing us in this table how all of these costs kind of were laid out. So that's how you're going to use this. So column 1, these are all the line items to choose from. Column 2, you're entering again the dollar amounts from the grant, how much you spent. Column 3 is the matching funding, what you spent and how much and on what. And remember that total under column 2 should be equal to or less than column 3, right? You can spend more than $1. You know, there's a dollar for dollar match, but in most cases, you're going to probably be spending more than $1 for every dollar of the grant. So just showing what those numbers look like. I'll stop in case there's any questions.
There's nothing in the chat too, so.
Okay, I'll keep
Yeah.
going. All right, perfect. So just a brief screenshot to show you the questions on the narrative form. This is what you're going to be answering. So again, these are questions about the program goals, the progress and successes, the project challenges, and then a little additional information about your cultural equity and inclusion vision and activities. So again, check out the character counts. These are strict. They're character counts, not word counts. So for every period, every space, all these, returns to start a new paragraph, those all count against that character count. So just to make sure. And then that's why we asked, it's probably good to start in a Word document so that you're not going over these character counts. So just do your best to explain the progress, the modifications you had to make in terms of, potentially you've had to adjust some of the programming that's happening, reshuffle the programming, maybe the operations. Tell us about overall what ended up happening, what was the impact of the funding on your ability to achieve the goals that you had laid out. focus your responses to what's most meaningful, the most meaningful elements and information. Through your responses, we're hoping to gain a deeper understanding of the project scope, the implementation and progress. We want to know what modifications you've had to make in order for us to be more responsive, a better partner. We do share this information with our leadership. We share it with our research and evaluation team. So it's important information. We do read through these every year. And definitely the cultural equity and inclusion statement, policy, and plan. We are right now evaluating the responses to this information. There may be some potential evolution of these questions in the future. But we want everyone to know that we do collect this and we do read through this information. It's really helpful for us to improve on what we're doing to support the work that you all are doing. We have a section in the narrative questions that's about participation and project reach. So these are questions where they're that you're either checking off or you're entering a number. So you'll see those at the end. And this is basically your reporting numbers out for those who participated in this OGP grant funded project. So not the overall numbers for everything at the organization, particularly what happened with this grant funded project. If a category is not applicable, then do not enter anything, just click NA. So yeah, so this is really so that we can understand who are the communities that you serve, specifically those that are impacted and benefiting from the participation in the work that you're doing. If your support was for general operating, like staff salaries, then you can consider the project really like whatever was happening during the last 2 years of programming. So check those applicable boxes that describe the community, audience, constituents as needed. Use the description boxes to provide more context if needed. And then know that the data is important for us to understand how these programs and projects specifically support the needs of specific members of our communities, the needs, the interests, and the values. As we're looking through this data, again, we're using this for advocacy to support trying to receive more funding for the OGP program, to receive more recognition from the Board of Supervisors, who are basically the reason we have this funding in general. So help us tell that story of how the OGP and the Cultural Equity and Inclusion Initiative continue to foster the community's access to arts and culture, and how this funding is enriching the lives of our residents here in the county of LA. So this is the supplemental materials checklist. So again, there are some pieces you need to have ready to go. We've already seen this checklist. So just putting it up here so you know these are the things you're going to upload into your supplemental materials form, required form in the report. You will not see an invoice form unless you never submitted it, which I don't think anyone, this is not the case with anybody in this group, I'm pretty sure. But if there are questions about the invoice, please let us know. Again, you can send us an email and we'll investigate. So once you've completed each of those pieces, the narrative questions, the matching expenses, and the supplemental materials, you're going to click submit in the dashboard. And the very last thing you'll definitely want to make sure you do is download the copy of the report so that you have that in your records. We audit about 10% of our grantees at the end of the year. So in prior years, we used to ask certain grantees to send us copies of receipts with their reports. We do not do that anymore. What we do now is we basically just do an audit of like 10%. So we have about 460 grantees, about 40 will be audited, which means we'll come back to you and ask for proof of expenses. So just make sure you're making a good habit of keeping these financial records that have to do with your OGP grant in case we come back later and say, hey, we need to see your proof of expenses for this grant project. And so hopefully everyone's doing that. Proof of expenses can be canceled check, copies of canceled checks, a copy of your statement from the bank, receipts. Maybe you have an MOU or signed contracts that you've kept copies of, things like that, QuickBooks reports. Just keep making sure that you're keeping all of that on file in case we ask for it. And that brings me to the end. I'll stop in case there's any questions. All right, it sounds like we don't have questions. If you later on feel like you want to connect with us, feel free to email us. We can connect online. We can connect by phone. Either way is fine. And if you need an extension, please definitely connect with us so that we can arrange something with you all. We're here to help. So please feel free to get in touch. Oh, and Marcella asked if we can have a copy of this presentation. Yes, this is actually already online. So if you see this, let me see, I want to copy and paste this into the chat. This link I'm putting into the chat is where you're going to find this. Oh, that might not have worked well. Sorry, let me get a better copy of that link. This is where you're going to find the link to this set of slides. Hopefully that was the right. Yeah, I think that should be the right link there. Again, if you need anything else, feel free to reach out. Thank you for being on the line with us. Appreciate you, appreciate everything you do. Have a good rest of your day and weekend. And see you all soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Marcella.
Wow, that was fast and very smooth.
Good. Well, let me stop the
Yeah.
recording.